What's up, cyberspace cadets? It is IRATE Prostate here, and it's Thursday, 6 o'clock Eastern. That's right, 5 o'clock Central and 3 o'clock Pacific. And you know what that means? It's Hot Takes with the big fat Brian. What's up, brother?
Yo, Gabba Gabba.
Gabba Gabba, hey. All right, man. Going back to the Ramones, out of all things. But we got it playing in the background as a guitar loop. If you can guess it, just hit me up in the DMs with your guess, and if you get it right, I'll give you a no prize, like Marvel Comics. But so all right, we're here to talk about Netflix original movie, and today we are going to talk about this movie called Outsider. It takes place in post-war Japan, and it involves an actor. Jared Leto is the main character in it, who is not an actor. He's in prison when we start out. So do you want to, Brian, how do you want to break this down? Do you want to maybe like tell the story and then talk about it?
Well, why don't we first talk about the cultural appropriation that's happening? You see, this is another white man taking the job of a Japanese man.
But fair enough. No, it was actually they did a really good job, I thought, with the sets and stuff. They were to era. They were really well done. That's it's interesting because Uzi Q asked me if it was a good movie, and I'll tell you my answer when we get to it. Okay, so it opens up. This dude he's a white American male in a Japanese prison. We don't know why he's there, how he got there. But he's on some kind of mop duty, right? And in the mop dirt duty, he sees these like Yakuza walking out of a shower, right? And and so he goes into the shower and he sees that they had hung this other Yakuza guy. And so he calls for the guards. He helps him stay alive. And then the guy kind of befriends him, and he helps him get out of jail by the guy tries to commit suicide, and he said, well, if he tries to commit suicide, that they'll send him to the hospital, and then once he's in the hospital, his brothers will break him out, and then he can send his brothers to get the American out, right? And so they the guy, his name, the friend's name is Kiyoshi, and Leto's character's name is Nick. So Kiyoshi tells everybody that he thinks Nick would be okay to use in this situation. They're dealing with this American factory, and they're not paying like their tribute, their cut to the Yakuza, like as tradition. You gotta give the crime family your due, or else they're gonna fuck shit up. They want their money, and so the test was to send him in there and see what he would do. And he beats the guy over the head, and the guy says, "Did you kill him?" And he goes, "No." He said he will live. And obviously, when you beat somebody over the head with a typewriter, they're probably going to listen to you next time. And then after that, right? So they set up this deal, and we meet, everybody in the picture. We meet the old man. We meet this guy named Orichi, who's like Kiyochi's former best friend, right? So you can tell that he's starting to get a shine to Nick. He really likes Nick a whole lot. And so there's this arms deal that's going down on this port that's run by this rival gang, right? But everything's supposed to work out to where they're going to get some weapons out of it and make some money off of it. But only Nick can go and do the deal, because they can't be connected to it because it's on a rival family's, territory. And so he goes and gets the deal to get the guns, and there's no guns there. It was a big, double cross, and these Japanese guys come out of nowhere, and they turn guns on him, and then he does this magic kung fu shit, and he ends up pulling the gun around and then shooting the two guys, and so he's how they do that thing in movies now, where you can grab the gun and then turn the guy around with the gun and make him shoot people, right? So he does that, and so the boss, gets really pissed off because he ends up killing a couple of their rival Yakuza, right?
Yeah.
And so he calls a meeting and says, "What the fuck? Who's the boss here?" And then it comes out that Orig was the one that set it up. Orichi's number 2, and Kiyoshi's number 1. So I'll just say number 2, and number 2 admits to it. And so Nick and Kiyoshi, well, Nick gives 2 fingertips, right? So if you fuck up in the Yakuza, you have to make penance by cutting off one of your digits off of a finger, and if you've done too much, you have to cut off another one. So you can tell the fuck ups in the Yakuza by who's got the most fingers, right? If he's got more fingers than everybody else, he's probably the least likely to fuck up. At least that's kind of the deal, right? And so let's see what happens next. So they cut off the fingers. The guy from the rival family is happy with that shit. And what's the next deal they do? And I forgot. Kiyoshi's got a sister, a really beautiful, hot, gorgeous sister that Nick is instantly in love with but can't have. Right? Brian?
Yep.
You there?
Yep.
Okay.
Can't have. Yes.
Yeah, all right. So.
No. So, I mean, to be fair, she's pretty hot.
God, she is smoking. Beautiful young lady, man. I don't know who this actress is, but she's in Deadpool 2. So she's the Asian chick in Deadpool 2.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But the heart wants what the heart wants, and well, the heart on basically,
the heart on, yeah, exactly. That's good.
But yeah, she. I mean, I get why they wanted to keep him away, obviously, and there's clear overtone that it's not just because he's Yakuza, it's also because he's an outsider, right, or white.
He's an American. He's a white American.
Yeah, exactly.
So all right. So after they do the gun deal and he gives up the digits, what do they do next? Do they go ahead and go up and decide to make him a Yakuza and invite him into the Brotherhood? They go out in the woods, and you're wondering what is he? He's wondering what's going to happen. They give him a suit and an apartment, right? But he goes up in the woods, and they do this little ceremony, and he gets the the entire body tattoo that the Yakuza get, blah blah blah, and then of course he runs into an old friend from the army. Who is going to fuck everything up, and he threatens to do so. He says, "Yeah, there's a lot of people who wonder where you went, blah blah blah." And
okay, I got to stop you right there, because that
stop me and back it up.
It has a lack of continuity right there, right? Because the guy says he's his friend,
mm-hmm,
and then he threatens him,
right
away, and that was one thing I was like, okay, well, I don't really think that's how that would happen. Especially, he did notice how he was dressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been in Japan for 3 years, like he stated, then you know all about Yakuza.
Right.
You're not gonna, oh, that's weird. He's got straight black hair now, and he wears a suit, and he talks very calmly.
Yeah, with one expression on his face.
Exactly.
I made a statement about that, but he pointed out that, that's a stoic Japanese thing anyway. So I was like, okay, you got that one. But I don't know. He kind of reminded me of, there was an old gif of Paris Hilton. Do you remember that? That was like, it would show like her with like 500 different dresses and hairdos, but her face was in the same spot and angle and it was the same face every time, the same smile. It was really weird. But it reminded me of that, So all right, so the American guy, he says, all right, you know what, man, come on back and we'll have a proper beer and I'll tell you what's really going on here. And of course, he cuts the guy's throat. And there's, there's like, you can tell that there's some nods to Scorsese. I mean, there's also a nod to a movie called The Man Called Horse.
Yes, I was going to say that.
Richard Harris, which has to do with a British man who gets pulled into a Native American tribe, and he becomes, he becomes one of them. Were you really going to mention that? That's interesting because that's like one of those that I was thinking of, and I was like, what is that movie? And so that's a good thing. We both went there. Yeah, so good. All right. So,
okay.
And there's nods to Romeo and Juliet. There's all kinds of repetitious, repetitious tropes going on here. Okay.
I did want, because it was totally Trope City. Let's be honest.
Right. Exactly.
There was the sharpened straight razor against the guy's neck. Mm-hmm. The cutting off of the pinkies.
You expect that though. That's Yakuza, man. But what you don't expect, and what never would ever happen in the world, would be the Yakuza actually accept a white American man into their ranks. I mean,
especially not after World War II.
Especially not after World War II. That would be like going to prison and just bending over. I mean, it was almost like that kind of an act. It would be a total act of submission, and if anything, the Yakuza would stiffen up probably after the war, is what I would think. And a lot of the Army and Air Force, I bet some of them went into the Yakuza just for that. Say hey to Goat Man.
What up, Goat Man? Oh, we also got Atema the Hun, Race Jacobson, and it looks like Death Harukin.
Death Harukin, Atema the Hun, and Race Jacobson. What is up? What is up, and howdy? I don't usually look at the chat when I'm on because it's just like a healthy thing for me to do. And then that way I focus on doing what I like to do, and that's hang with Big Fat Brian and talk about movies.
Oh, yeah. He rubs butter on my chest while we talk.
Exactly. I rub butter on my chest while we talk. That's kind of hot. But so I said Uzi Q keeps asking me, is it a good movie? Is it a good movie? Is it a good movie? And I said over and over again, I kept wanting it to be a good movie because it looked really good. But before I get there, okay, all right. So he's killed his friend from the Army. He's got to bury him, of course, and so out of Goodfellas, he goes and gets his friend in the middle of the night. And they go dig a grave and put him in it, and that's where this Scorsese came in, right? That's totally Scorsese. Yeah, exactly. The Goodfellas thing, and so after that, let's see.
Okay, so let's back up to the conversation before they buried the guy, right?
Right.
It's also totally Scorsese in the fact that he's like, I'm still banging your sister, right?
Yeah, exactly. This didn't stop him, and I'd like to make her an honest woman and shit,
and then also, there's a dead body, like.
And then the thing at the beginning when he tells him he can't fuck his sister, he tells him, he says she's a virgin, and he looks at him like, dude, she ain't no virgin, and she hadn't been for a while, you know, like she knows what she's doing. And the dude like looks at him, you know, like, I mean, you would never say anything like that, you know. That's just disrespectful. Not even somebody, even if that situation existed, in that situation wouldn't say that. I'm just saying that's,
well,
you know.
I don't know, because I know a lot of people that if you've got a real close friendship with them, you can, and you're honest with them and you tell them exactly what is true, you know, like a non-objective point of view, then they'll understand that, hey, you're not trying to be hurtful towards them. Mm-hmm. You're just being honest, you know, like, especially some guy that you've watched him cut open his guts and held them in for him while screaming for guards. You know? Yeah,
I see what you're saying, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so they buried the American, and so while that's going on, Orichi, the which means snake, thanks to Thorn, Mrs. Midnight, for looking that up for us, which literally means, Orichi means snake in Japanese. So, and he literally proves to be the snake as he betrays the whole family. Are we there yet?
Well, yeah, I think we're actually a little bit past that.
Okay.
Like we've cycled through.
Right. Well, see, when they're burying the dude, he like tries to rape the sister, and you know, the snake, you know, so, and that's the beginning of his major betrayal and turning his back completely on the family that they are members of is the Shiramatsus, right? And the ones that the rival families are the Seizus and the Shinzais. Right?
Can I? Yeah, I just want to say, Death Harukin says it best here. Gee, the guy named Snake was a snake. You know,
exactly.
Who would have guessed?
Who'd have
no, that's. I mean, look, there's good foreshadowing and there's bad foreshadowing, and that's bad foreshadowing.
Like, I totally agree.
I'm sorry. Where were we? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So yeah, well, it's like when they're burying the dude, he hits on the sister, tries to. He says, you know, hey, remember, you know, I was hitting that shit, you know, earlier, and she said those days are long gone. So you know, he had actually, because he tries to like give Nick up to Kiyoshi. You know, early on by telling him that, you know, he knows for a fact that the dude has been with his sister, right? When he himself had been with her, you know, for quite a while, it seemed like to me that they were together for a while and then broke up. And so he goes back for, you know, for some of that old that good old same old feeling, and she's not having any of it. And he hits her, beats her up, roughs her up and shit. And of course, Nick gets pissed off about that. And so they take the old man and he's out getting a suit, right? And and so when he's getting fitted for the suit, Nick gets this like inkling, like, oh, I just need to go back there because he's been out there way too long, and he sees this guy trying to kill him, choke him to death. So they kill that guy, and they realize, oh, this is a setup, and somebody has set us up. Who is the fucking traitor? And you know, we all know who it is, right? Of course, except them, right?
Oh yeah.
So all right, so they get the old man in the car. Kiyoshi's at the driver's wheel, and then these guys come up. They obviously took the distributor cap off, you know, when they were inside, which is what you would do, so the car wouldn't start. Back in the day, they used to have distributor caps on them, but I can tell you all about that later. And so it's not starting, and they come up. These two guys come up with guns and shoot into the car, you know, several times, and of course Kiyoshi gets killed. And you know, and now
is a brother.
Yeah, exactly, and you know, and the old man, you know, he escapes with his life one more time. You know, he asks. I don't understand why they keep asking Nick to leave, because he's supposedly one of the Brotherhood. But I guess he can't vote on shit.
Well, yeah, he's not really Japanese.
Well,
so.
But I don't know, man. It seems like if they would let him in and give him the fucking tattoos and shit, they'd let him vote on shit. You know what I'm saying?
No. So there's a theme throughout the movie that he is less than them. It's the reason that he has to give up 2 fingers instead of 1 finger. It's the same reason.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, so it's real subtle then.
Yeah, it's there. Well, that's the thing about this movie is there's a lot of nonverbal.
Say hey to Allie, Harlequin. Happy Allie.
What up, Harlequin?
Baby girl, what's happening? So okay, so we're at the point of where there's war. This little kid comes up and delivers a message to the old man saying, "Look, we don't want war. Come without any guns." You know, anytime they tell you to come without guns, you better bring guns, all right? Because it's a fucking setup, right? And so the kid says, you know, I need the answer now. And he says, okay, we'll meet them. And they show up. And of course, you know, the dude says, the head of the rival family said, you know, you've been given up. Your boy gave you up. And it's Orichi. And the old man invites Orichi back to the family. Come on, you be my son again. And Orichi literally stabs him in the back. And kills him. And so there's a little gunshot, you know, and there's a sniper. They brought the enemy gang were, you know, that told you not to bring guns. You know, they brought a sniper, of course, and plus a shitload of dudes with guns. To me, that all this shit, man, it's just like, okay, it looks so beautiful. This movie looks so beautiful, man. The cars are fantastic. We were talking about that, man. There's some classic cars, old Cadillac, man,
yeah.
Old 58 Caddy, man. Beautiful cars. You know, the sets are, the clothes, man, everything is down and it looks great. But, you know, it's like Netflix. They just can't deliver a fucking script, right?
Yeah,
Even the direction is good on this. I thought, you know, there was some great camera work.
Yeah, the directing was great. The acting was great. The cinematography was great. The script was limited. It was very, very limited. Like, if you think about it, that's a 2-hour movie, right?
Right.
And what actually happened in the story? There was not that much.
Right.
He joins...
I literally could have told it in less time, but you know, and it's like it's only 20 after. You know, and we're basically at the end of the film.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know? So yeah, not much happened at all, man. There was like I was talking about. There's all this like, you know, time passage where you're like looking at stuff and you're seeing everyday events happening, and you know the camera slowly pans through that. And it's just, you know, it's just a waste of time. You know, when you could be, you know, it's like if you look at fucking anime, man, they this last thing, what was that we watched? Sword Guy, man.
Sword Guy.
Man, they had so many goddamn things into a 22-minute episode. I mean, it's like I had to take notes on that to just know what the fuck I was doing. I mean, it was crazy, you know, and then you turn around and you look at this, and this is like, you know, this is like a breezy fucking weeping willow, man. Just kind of, you know, just telling the story, dude. You know, smoking a joint, you know, just kicking back.
Well, okay. I mean, so I get that it is a slower pace. I don't mind so much that the movie is slow paced, but the progression of the slow paced movie was bad. You know, it like they took all of this time character building in the very beginning of the movie to, you know, to make you feel invested in the main character, but you know, if you're marketing to an American audience, they already feel invested in the one American guy. You know, like
well, and the whole that 90 minutes leading up to it is like, you know, it's like, okay, there's going to be a killer payoff, man. There's going to be something major that happens in this last, you know, quarter of this movie, man. and it's just like they like run out of time and say, "Oh shit, we got to end the film."
Did you did you finish, like, did you do the whole synopsis all the way to the end?
Well, no, I hadn't gotten there yet, but so they killed the old man, and Orichi. So and you know, Nick gets shot in the leg, so they can't. You know, the family's down to like about 8 or 9 guys. So there's no way in hell they can win any kind of war, any kind of gang war. But Nick, you know, he wants to go avenge, you know, the old man and of course Kiyoshi, you know, his best friend's death. So he goes to this dojo, of all things. Well, see, and I didn't get that. I mean, what the fuck? Why is everything so formal here when these guys were like so informal? You know what I'm saying?
Different families, different traditions, man.
Different strokes for different folks, man.
Exactly.
I guess you're right. Because, you know, this was like all formal and shit. They're all in full, like, kimono, you know, and very ceremonial looking, you know, type of attire. And
might I make a suggestion here? So remember when the main character became part of their Yakuza family?
Right.
They were all dressed sort of, you know, ceremonially. I have a feeling that he walked in on the ceremony of all of those guys being brought into the new family,
including Orichi. Right. That makes that makes sense. And they didn't even try to explain that. Right.
Yeah, no, they didn't explain any of that.
Right. You know, it was just like you were supposed to get that, you know, and that makes sense. So, you know, you said that, it's like, oh, okay, shit, that makes fucking sense. And so, you know, so Nick says, well, I want to see this warrior, you know, act like a real warrior and kick my ass with swords, you know, with katana. And so he brought this katana. And so Orichi does this like bullshit where he grabs the sword and says, "You think you can, you know, come here and do this and you know and get in a sword fight with me, and you know that makes you a Yakuza?" He says, "No, you're nothing but a gaijin. Which is Japanese for outsider. You're an outsider, and you will always be." And it's like this is the crescendo of the whole fucking movie, right? And so he gives the sword back to Nick, and what does Nick do? Nick opens the sword and then swishes it across the dude's neck, and it splits his neck open. And it was like some kind of punk kung fu looking weird maneuver that was just totally unbelievable, right? I don't know. It looked cool, but it didn't look feasible. Okay.
No, I think it looked feasible because he was close at they were both in each other's face. Yeah, so right. I mean. I don't know. I thought I was totally fine with that portion of it. Mostly because you knew it had to end that way or anyway. You know, you were imagine how gypped you would have felt if the movie didn't have him dying. You know,
well, but that would be great. That would make me that would piss me off. At least I would have felt something, right? You know,
that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of like, oh, okay, it's just another fucking Netflix movie that doesn't, you know, that has to wrap it up in the last fucking 10 minutes because, you know, they just run out of time or whatever, you know, excuses.
Yeah, that's true. But I think, you know, if we were going to get inventive with this, then I think the best way would have had, you know, him killing the guy and then being killed for killing him. Because that was the
exactly, man. Because that's really what would have happened. All right.
Yeah, well,
if this is a real deal and he's in their fucking dojo, he literally comes in on their territory and kills somebody that's fixing to get made into their family. They're not going to let that dude go. They're going to fuck him up and kill him and set an example because they don't want another one coming. You know. So, and of course, the fact that he's gaijin, you know, is offensive enough. I would say.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But I mean, so like I said, the whole message of the movie is, I mean, it's literally called Outsider, and so the reason that he gave him the sword was because he thought, you know, he's protected there, and also the outsider is less than him. He doesn't have the honor, even though the guy's, you know, Orichi, the snake, he doesn't have the honor to have the ability to kill him.
Right, because he would not have used that sword anyway. But
yeah,
because it was kind of implied that Kiyoshi had like showed him some stuff with it, right? Because he had showed him the sword earlier, and he made some allusion to that, you know, he was going to teach him or something, right? Which might have happened because the passage of time. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, because the passage of time is kind of weird, right? Because there's the period right after he cuts off his fingers, and then there's the period where he's not wearing the bandages anymore, right? And his fingers are cut off.
Yeah.
And you can see that. So, and, you know, so I thought maybe in that time, since he told him, you know, he showed him the sword and implied that he was going to teach him how to use it. Because what, you know, why show him, you know, the sword, if, you know, and why would he have it at, you know, at the end if he, you know, if there wasn't something about it? So, but see, none of that adds up because they didn't tell us that. They had plenty of time to tell us that, but they still didn't tell us.
Yeah, I mean, there was there was a lot of gaps, to be fair. And a lot of things that were explained that didn't need to be explained. Not, I mean,
right?
Like the love story. The love story is fine that was in here, but it was sort of long for what it, you know, what they were trying to portray. They, especially since they didn't really portray anything, you know.
You know what? To be honest, Brian, I would have liked it if they wouldn't have done anything about love at all. That character, the girl, should, you know, because they all live like the life of where, you know, they don't get married. You know, they're like mobsters in the United States, man. They party around. You want a chick, you got one, man. It's not a thing, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that was a device used to maybe to keep like women invested in the movie. I don't know. Maybe that was a sexist thing for me to say, but I mean, go ahead.
I mean, who knows how they write their scripts? It's probably just an algorithm that pumps out something that says this will be appealing to this many people. You know,
right? Well, you're probably not off on it. I mean, because there are script writing books, you know, that are formulaic, you know, and you know, there's, you know, beats and there's scenes and there's acts, you know, that build up into, you know, into television shows, movies, whatever. So, you know, who's to say this isn't a paint by numbers? Because, I mean, like we were saying, it looks beautiful. The acting's really good. The direction, you know, the set design, everything is just fucking just detailed down to the, you know, just, you know, to the micro millimeter. And the story is so weak. For something that could have been, golly, they could have done so much with this whole idea.
Well, they really could, and the thing that's sort of disappointing about this is that the cinematography itself was so good. Like, even the lighting, they paid attention to the lighting.
Yeah,
everything. You know, there was low color tones. I mean, you can see it right there. So it was more like almost a noir look to it, and dark lighting in almost every scene, unless
it was a noir. It was a noir type, you know, feel to it for sure. It was definitely a noir film. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was, you know, I remembered when he first gets there and he's looking out of that cheap apartment that he gets put in at first. You know, all those colors, man, were beautiful. You know, they would hit the red highlights, and then they would put a blue. I can't remember what that light's called, but you know, as kind of like beneath the shadow, it was you know, there was this blue haze, right, which like accented that red, right, which pushes the image out. It was real Argento-like. It reminded me of Dario Argento, and I mentioned that, you know, when we were watching it. So, but that's what I was referring to.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I mean, so even, I mean, even the acting, like they didn't have shit tier actors. This was no Tremors, no Tremors Full Day in Hell.
No, he wasn't, man. And that's because I looked up, the Ricci guy especially, man. He's big deal. He has been a leading main actor in Japan since the 80s, since the late 80s. Okay. So it's and the guy that played Kiyoshi, man, he's in the Thor movies, because he's the Thor's four friends. There's Balder, Falstaff, and what's his name? There were two other guys, and one of them's an Asian guy, and he plays that part. Also, he was also in Battleship. Yeah, which is one of those formulaic films that we were talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to you, did it feel like the family that we're following around in this movie, right? Did it feel like they were just stumbling into random situations where you knew exactly what was going to happen, and like why would you do that? Why? You're right on that one point. You don't have guns. Why? I mean, no guns. Why? Why would you even bother showing up?
Why ask them to not bring guns? You know what I'm saying? Except for like, well, hey, that sounds like a setup. And I got to talk about the dude who's the back of his head is flat.
Yes.
Because I mean, that is so weird looking, and it was so cool. I was thinking you could set a can on the ledge.
There it is.
On the roll on his neck, Anyway, I'm sorry. I saw it and I had to say something. So.
Well, there's a scene with him where he chokes a guy to death, and I'm just sitting there thinking, you're not even choking him, really, because it was bad. That was, I would say, if there was any bad acting in it at all, it was that one part, because he's like barely hugging him. He
looks like he's a comic actor to me. I don't know. I kind of got that vibe off of him, just out of his facial expressions and that goofy joke he tells. With his thumbs. It's like, what is this? One worm, and then he does it with the other thumb. He goes, what is this? Two worms. And it was like, it was so stupid. It was funny, man. I laughed because it was like, what the fuck? So at random, so weird.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think that we probably are going to have a couple of people that want to hop in here. When do you want to start that?
Well, really, we usually do that about a quarter till, and really, it's 5 minutes, and we've got about 5 minutes until that happens. You wanna just go ahead and open it up, and then
I think that'd be a great idea, because I mean, let's be honest, there's not much to this movie. There's no meat on the bone.
Exactly, man. And I worried about us not having enough time, or us having too much time, to talk about this. Because of the exact situation. It was like, because, I was remembering it, and I'm like, I remembered the whole fucking movie. And I'm an old person who used to smoke a lot of pot. And I shouldn't be able to remember that whole fucking movie. I'm sorry, man, but I did. So that's just one way to say it. And I see Miss Midnight is waiting. So we're going to pull her in, and she's going to talk with us. All right. I got her.
Oh, you got her.
Hey, girl.
Oh, hello. Sorry about that.
That's no problem. No problem. You caught it. Hello.
Hello.
All right.
So what did you think of the movie?
Overall, I enjoyed it. There's a couple of tropes in there that's like blatant. Trope is blatant, but overall, I kind of liked it.
All right. Talk to us. Talk to us. We've been talking.
What was your... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What was your favorite scene?
Oh man, my favorite scene is probably the one where Kiyoshi is doing the suicide attempt. But it was just like I don't know. It's probably because I like horror movies and I appreciated the practical effects quite a fucking lot.
It looked good,
the whole
didn't it?
idea behind is like he's so desperate to get out, he's literally going to try to kill himself and risk actually dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to make sure that the guards actually just don't give a fuck?
Well, and,
Yeah, that...
well, and my question is that like, how come he's so spry and able to like bounce around like he does, when, Nick gets there? It's like, wouldn't he still be like stitched up and shit and, kind of bent over?
Which makes me wonder, like, how long did that take between the time where he cut his stomach open and the time that they came to get Nick?
Exactly.
It must have been a lot of time.
See?
At least a few months. That's why I think this whole movie happened probably over the course of like 2 years.
Yeah, it had to be a couple of years, I would think, too. But see, they don't do anything to tell us, anything about the time of passage, which is really one of the weakest. I think one of the weakest parts about the whole thing is that lack of definition of time.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Bad progression. Why did they didn't make it very clear at all that it had to be like 5 years even. There's no way that all this stuff happens in like, I don't know, 2 months or something.
At least 2 years. At the
Yeah.
very...
Yeah, well, and so another thing I was reminded of was the sumo wrestling scene there, right? Why was that in the movie at all? I completely forgot.
Well, why was the romance thing wasn't a bad romance in there, but if you had cut it out, you wouldn't be missing anything.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what kind of my point was earlier. It's like, the romance was like, it was almost like you could cut and paste it and pull it out, and then the movie would still work.
It has that the lamp problem. You could have replaced me with the lamp, and you probably would have been missing it.
You're absolutely
right. Yeah,
that's a great way to say it.
Lamp, but still, very sexy lamp though.
Yeah, it was a pretty sexy lamp. Did anyone else notice that? So in the like Yakuza strip club thing, they had a bunch of dancers, but they all. I mean, I don't know if
they were all flat-chested.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Netflix was going for like a real woman look type of thing because
it is Asia.
Going for the A cup thing.
Yeah, but even Asians can get boob jobs. Like there's, it's a strip club. Come on now.
I mean, like, post World War II, it wouldn't have been common.
Oh, you're right. I'm thinking.
Time period.
Yeah, I am not thinking about the time period. My bad. That was my fault.
Was that even a thing?
No, silicone didn't exist until like the mid-'60s.
Yep.
So they didn't have boob jobs. Don't say hey to Tim Tarbox, Adrian Blom. Let's see who else. I just going through and say hey to everybody that I missed earlier.
I'm also not sure that larger breasts would have been the beauty norm in Japan.
Probably not then.
Yeah, but you were right, Brian. I like my brain went there too. I went, what the fuck?
Right?
I want some titties. Just saying.
I thought they were pretty.
Yeah, they were pretty.
They were pretty. Yeah.
Nothing. It was definitely, and the main actress. She was really a lovely young lady.
Holy crap! Yeah.
Beautiful. Stunning. To say the least. But talk to us some more, Thorne. Ryan, please.
I was going to ask her a question. Did it feel very post World War II to you?
It definitely hits on the time period really well with those alleys where everything's just kind of built on top of each other, and parts of it are kind of industrialized, but other parts aren't. Japan back then was very much a mixture of kind of the beginning of industrialization and tradition kind of falling into each other. It was like kind of like a transition period for the country, so I feel like visually it matched really well. Especially in that scene where they try to kill the old man. where you have like that very traditional looking Japanese street, and all of a sudden this for the time, like line car driving down the street.
I just want to point out that scene I dubbed the Squirtle Squad scene, and I have changed my avatar to Squirtle because it's totally a Squirtle Squad scene.
And I had to ask what the Squirtle Squad meant, man. So
IRATE didn't know what a squirrel was.
I dated myself. I'm definitely an old fucker. But hey, all right. So Thorne, keep talking. Keep telling us, because we watched the second time I saw it was with you and with Brian. So tell us what now.
This is my first time seeing it.
Okay. In your initial impression, there you thought parts of it worked, parts of it didn't. So talk about some more. If you could change anything about it, what would you have changed?
Quite honestly, if they want to do all this character building and everything, I'm not sure having an American was necessary.
Agreed.
See, man, and that's exactly what I was thinking is why couldn't they use a Japanese soldier, a Japanese American soldier in the same spot?
So much better. Yes.
Well, okay.
That would even be more impactful, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'm gonna put this out there. And are you guys saying that the name of the story and the overbearing tone of the movie was not necessary to the movie? Because if you are, I agree.
Pretty much.
That's exactly what I've been saying.
Like if
and
you had like a Japanese American that's like half Japanese and half white, that would have been super impactful.
Yeah, it would have.
It would have been awesome, man. And it would have made a lot more sense. It would have had more feel to it. The emotions would have been deeper. You could have used that same dick, American soldier, man. He was really good. That actor who played him was fantastic in that role.
Oh yeah, just keep him. He was
hell,
great.
I wanted to kill him. He was such a dick. I really thought he really did a good job with that. There's it's like we've said over and over again. It looks beautiful. It's really well acted in places. It's just, once again, the script is just stuck, and I don't know what the deal is with Netflix and script writers. Man, was there a writer's strike that I didn't know about or something?
I have no idea. It was a little schizophrenic, wasn't it?
Exactly.
A bit, yeah.
Also, I would like to give props to Panetti, who I also wanted to hit in the head with the typewriter.
Yeah, man, he was good too, man. Exactly. Exactly. The casting was spot on. There, I think I've said all I can say, man. Uzi Q kept asking me, was it good? Was it good? And I kept saying I wanted it to be. I kept waiting for it to really to hit that note that made me go, fuck yes. And I never got there.
There were a couple times where I really got distracted by the scenery, because it is a gorgeous movie.
Yeah.
And I lose track of what's going on in the captions and be like, oh wait, fuck, huh?
Well,
I was paying attention to the signs in the background, because that's some nice detail there.
It was all excellent, and it was all distracting. And maybe that was the idea behind it. So maybe you won't notice, the missing, elements of the story, that would have made it a great movie. Besides it's an okay movie. My mom would probably like it. You know what I'm saying?
Mine too.
Yeah.
Except for the finger thing, she probably wouldn't like that.
Yeah, probably. But it's realistic. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Losing digits.
Yeah, one thing that I gotta say was very good in this movie was, if you like graphic violence, then this is the movie for you, because there is constant violence throughout the movie, and it's done in a way that's not over the top. It's not what's that guy's name? Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, it's very,
Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino, yeah. It's not a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Not in the least.
not a gore show.
Yeah. So they do a really good job on that, and once again, the acting and the cinematography and even the directing, that was all good. It was like it was the hollowed out shell of a great movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It was like, everything was in place. It was just there was just the magic just wasn't there. You know, it was missing a couple of spells. 2 spells short of making gold. Shoot. So, where's JoJo? Jacob?
They used a Japanese American actor, or at least a character that was as Japanese American. They could have probably paced the movie better by adding flashbacks to that character's childhood.
Yeah. Or
add dimension, right? Exactly. There was that's excellent, because that's who's missing the dimension right there. It was Nick. Right. Yeah. We don't know anything about Nick's past. We don't get any clue about his childhood. That's maybe that's what it is, man. Is that we don't know enough about him. We know, it would be nice to know what happened in the army.
It is a why are you supposed to care about him type of moment.
Exactly.
Why? Oh, well, he's American, and
exactly. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Right.
The other synopsis that could have been better for this movie is, rather than the outsider being an American, he could have been somebody from a family that had died. Like, sort of a rejected, like, oh, he's got no family at all, and he was from a different portion of the Yakuza,
Right.
And that could have had the same, the same meaning they clearly were trying to portray of their script, and it could have also just been better because it would have made more sense and had better continuity when it came to the way Japanese people at that time acted towards each other, even.
Yeah, and one thing was off about it, though, was post-war Japan had a shitload of American soldiers there, and mostly there were MPs at just about every road crossing. And they were checking, like, because they were afraid of some kind of insurgency. And that went into the mid-50s, right, through the Korean War. So it was loaded with American GIs, American airmen from the Air Force, because Air Force was created by then. Marines, sailors. It would have been loaded with Americans too. That's maybe the one thing else that's kind of missing, because I think that if they were there, then a lot more people would have seen Nick and recognized him, and they needed that to not happen.
They could have explained that better with that character as to why he had to die.
Exactly, and what did he know about him, and why did they, why would these guys that he's talking about be interested in seeing him, and because that's the missing link. We have discovered it.
Well, but even further than that, how did he end up in a Japanese prison? Like,
yes,
exactly.
Because that wouldn't even make sense if you were in the military. How would you end up in a Japanese prison?
Exactly. You're in
American there.
You're in the military in post-war Japan. Even if you murdered a Japanese national, they would probably let you off.
Probably.
I mean, I hate to say that shit, but I mean, that's how fucking ridiculously, what word am I looking for? Cavalier, or mercenary, they were in their attitude towards the Japanese people, because they had to break them down. They had to make their emperor renounce his godhood. That was part of the surrender and shit. Because the way the whole empire was built on that, the emperor and shit. So there was a lot of shit that went on, man. That would be an interesting movie in itself to see what that looked like.
True.
So.
Also, I thought of another possibility of the whole thing of having a mixed character, and it would bring in kind of an aspect of something that most Americans they really don't know about, would be Japanese and Chinese.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Which would be an incredible. See that? Oh, wow. You talk about hate, or even half Korean Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's even worse. Because of the there's this hatred, the Chinese and the Koreans both hate the Japanese vehemently, and the Japanese hate the Chinese vehemently. I'm not sure about their attitude towards the Koreans, but it was all because of cross occupation. When Chinese occupied parts of Japan, they were horrible to them, and vice versa. The rape of Nanking. There was all this horrible shit that happened. They beheaded 1,000 men in that city, and had their heads sitting on the fence wall outside of the city. It was 1,000 heads lining up on the entrance into the city.
And Japan has yet to formally apologize.
They have not apologized for that. You're absolutely right. You're impressive, young lady.
Thank you.
Know your history.
Tema, I don't think that they would have, like, half black, half Japanese. I don't even think they would have given him the time of day.
No.
It's
that
okay.
That would not be believable to me.
Well, not just that, but it's okay to say that Japanese people are sometimes racist.
They're racist. They can be racist.
Yeah.
So, that would definitely have been.
Yep. They would have just, shot him or something.
Forbidden fruit.
I hate that trope so much.
It is pretty fucking, it's nice. I want to see some new shit. I really do.
Stop.
But see, that guy's a Marine. That was a Marine uniform. I think they might have gotten a thing mixed up on. I need to look at that uniform because you saw the knot on the hat.
Yeah.
So yeah, that signifies a Marine Corps.
They have changed a little bit, so maybe it was at the time an Army uniform and it changed over.
No, not the not the Marines. The Marines have the knot. That comes from on boats. Snipers had to wear the knot on their head. The Marines wore the knots on their heads so the snipers wouldn't shoot them. That's how they could tell who was who. From up in the crow's nest on the boats and shit. So, and that's where the knot comes from. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. Anybody is welcome to. But we're getting almost near the top of the hour. So, Brian, you want to go ahead and kick it off with your grade? Or let's let our guest, Mrs. Midnight, give her grade before we do our thing.
I just want to also point out something. I just realized that kid is probably the rival leader's son.
Maybe.
That's been a while.
Or he may be one of those pick-me-ups that they, orphan kid, that they kind of get into the family. I don't know. One or the other, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Do you want me to shill or something?
No, give us your grade. We usually do a 1 to 10 type deal.
If 5 is average,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it a 6. It's slightly above average.
Okay.
I still enjoyed it, but it has a lot of problems.
Okay. All right. Is it okay if we let you leave the studio at this point?
Well, let her shill.
Yeah, shill before you split. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
My bad.
I'm Thorn. I do a lot of narrations for horror movies. Well, not a lot of them. I do them once in a while. I do horror movie narrations, and sometimes I stream about horror movies. So if you want to check me out, you can check me out at Thorn Midnight on YouTube. And also check out my Zelda store.
Yep. She's got good stuff.
Follow me on Twitter. All the links are on my Twitter.
And I'll pop the links in the description after I get all this stuff together tonight. So
cool.
Check it out.
See you guys.
Thanks, Thorn.
Bye.
All right. B?
Okay, so my average is 7 out of 10, just so people know. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. It was just average.
Right.
It wasn't bad. I mean, I would watch it again if somebody asked me to watch it with them. But I mean, I'm not really. I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone particularly over anything else. You know, it was just meh. It was like bread with no butter.
Yeah, exactly, man. I don't know, man. I'm going to be. This is interesting because it's usually you're the rough one, and I'm usually the nice one. In this case, I'm going to give this thing about a 4.5. On overall, okay. I'm going to give it. I'll give it at least a 6 on the way it looked and the presentation and everything, but the script just sank it, man. The lack of script sank it for me. And so I wouldn't recommend it to my dad. I probably would recommend it to my mom, just because, you know, she could probably make it through, and the gore, she could close her eyes. But you know, but other than that, I mean, you know, my dad wouldn't even like this, man. And he's a stickler for, you know, anything like this he would like, you know. He's big on the you know, Goodfellas and shit like that. He would have the same complaints we did. So, and that's usually how I'm starting to, you know, grade shit. So, y'all, you know, it's like if you decide to see this movie and you totally disagree, that is fantastic. As a matter of fact, put it in the comments down there and we can have a discussion about that. I wouldn't mind that at all. Brian, would you mind that?
I wouldn't mind that at all either.
That's right. So
fight me IRL, bro.
That's right. And don't forget, you know, to subscribe to Big Fat Brian. His channel is outstandingly funny. He does some very creative shit. He's one of the most creative people I've met on this here YouTube. You know, this is really we're having a lot of fun doing this. Next week, all right, is our True Crime Week, okay, as we close out the month of June, man, which has gone by, I mean, like that. Our true crime is going to be Evil Genius, where there was a robbery that happened. This is a 3-part. I think it's an hour per part series, but I've heard it so real fast watch. So you know, so if you want to, you know, catch up with us, and we'll try to put it in the you know, put it in on the Twitter to remind y'all early next week. So you can catch up with us, and but on that, man, I think we've said all there is to say. Brian, you want to pimp some shit?
Yeah, I'd love to pimp some shit. So, guys, I now have a Patreon. So if you guys want to fund me and have me make wacky, weird things, and then do shout-outs to you guys, then feel free to join my Patreon. I don't think there'll be a link in this video, but on my next video, which is getting released tonight, hopefully within the next hour here, I just gotta select the proper music. Then you guys can go check that out as well. I'm making hard apple cider.
Sounds good, dude.
Well, I drank it the whole time we were live streaming here.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so nothing else?
No, that's really. Yeah, no, that's about it. That's about it.
All right, well, you know, I'm doing the Cream Stream on Friday night, and this week's guest is going to be American Gadfly. We're going to talk with him and have some fun, hopefully. And of course, Saturday drinks with friends. I'm probably not going to do an interview this week, but I will probably have something lined up next week. And of course, Chaos 120, IRATE Mondays are a thing now. So, and with that, this is IRATE Prostate and Brian.
Thug life, fam.
That's right, people. Y'all have a great week, and like I say, love, peace, chicken grease. See y'all later.
Deb, my dudes. Deb.